Article 110.26 of the 1999 National Electrical Code, as adopted in California, addresses working space about electrical equipment operating at 600 volts, nominal, or less to ground. This section is crucial for ensuring the safety of personnel who may need to inspect, service, or maintain electrical equipment. The specific part of the code in question deals with outdoor installations. It states that the clearance requirements must include the zone described in section 110.26 and that no architectural appurtenance or other equipment can be located in this zone. The phrase architectural appurtenance can be interpreted to include various elements that are added to or are part of a building's design. These elements serve an aesthetic or functional purpose, and they can range from decorative features to structural components. In the context of electrical safety and the National Electrical Code, the primary concern is whether these appurtenances obstruct access to electrical equipment or compromise the required working space. Considering that bushes are being planted in front of an outdoor panel, and these bushes extend more than 6 inches from the building, the question arises whether this violates Article 110.26. The answer is yes, it constitutes a violation. Bushes, in this scenario, are considered architectural appurtenances. They occupy the clearance zone required by Section 110.26. The Code explicitly prohibits any architectural appurtenance or other equipment from being located within this zone. Therefore, planting bushes in the designated clearance area is a direct contravention of the NEC requirements. The fact that the bushes are located more than 6 inches from the building is immaterial. The clearance zone stipulated by the NEC extends beyond the physical wall of the building. It encompasses the space necessary for personnel to safely access and work on the electrical equipment. Planting bushes within this zone, regardless of their distance from the building, obstructs this required space and violates the code. Let's delve deeper into the implications of these code requirements. Firstly, the purpose of Article 110.26 is to provide adequate working space around electrical equipment. This working space is essential for several reasons. 1. It allows electricians and other qualified personnel to safely inspect and maintain the equipment. 2. It provides sufficient room to perform repairs or replacements without being hindered by obstructions. 3. It ensures that personnel can quickly and safely escape in the event of an electrical hazard. Section 110.26 further elaborates on the dimensions of the required working space. The specific depth and width of the working space depend on several factors, including the voltage of the equipment and the presence of exposed live parts. The code provides tables and guidelines to determine the appropriate dimensions for different scenarios. These dimensions are not arbitrary, but rather are based on the ergonomic and safety considerations of working with electrical equipment. The prohibition of architectural appurtenances within the clearance zone is not merely a cosmetic requirement. It is a fundamental safety provision. Obstructions within the working space can create hazardous conditions. For example, they can impede access to the equipment, making it difficult to perform maintenance or repairs. They can also create tripping hazards or restrict movement, increasing the risk of accidents. In the event of an electrical fault or arc flash, obstructions can hinder a worker's ability to escape quickly, potentially leading to serious injury or even death. The responsibility for complying with the NEC rests with various parties, including the property owner, the electrical contractor, and the local building authority. The tract developer, in this case, has a duty to ensure that the landscaping and other site improvements comply with all applicable codes and regulations. Failure to comply with the NEC can have serious consequences. Firstly, it can result in fines and penalties. Secondly, it can create hazardous conditions that pose a risk to people and property. Thirdly, it can void insurance coverage in the event of an accident or fire. Therefore, it is essential for all parties involved in the design, installation, and maintenance of electrical systems to be familiar with the NEC requirements and to ensure that they are strictly followed. In this specific scenario, the tract developer should be informed of the violation and instructed to remove the bushes from the clearance zone. Alternatively, the developer could relocate the electrical panel to a location where it would not be obstructed by landscaping or other appurtenances. In either case, the solution should comply with the NEC requirements and ensure that adequate working space is provided around the electrical equipment. It is also important to note that the NEC is a constantly evolving document. It is updated every 3 years to reflect changes in technology, safety practices, and industry standards. Therefore, it is essential for electricians and other qualified personnel to stay up to date on the latest code requirements. This can be achieved through continuing education courses, industry publications, and participation in professional organizations. In addition to the NEC, other codes and regulations may also apply to electrical installations. These may include local building codes, fire codes, and environmental regulations. It is important to be aware of all applicable requirements and to ensure that all work is performed in compliance with these regulations. Let's now consider some specific examples of how architectural appurtenances can violate Article 110.26. Firstly, imagine a situation where a decorative fence is installed directly in front of an electrical panel. The fence would clearly obstruct access to the panel and violate the required working space. Secondly, consider a scenario where a large air conditioning unit is placed directly next to an electrical transformer. The air conditioning unit would impede access to the transformer and could also create a tripping hazard. Thirdly, imagine a situation where storage shelves are placed in front of an electrical panel in a commercial building. The shelves would obstruct access to the panel and could also pose a fire hazard. In all of these examples, the architectural appurtenance creates a hazard by obstructing access to the electrical equipment or by creating a tripping or fire hazard. To avoid these types of violations, it is essential to carefully plan the layout of electrical equipment and to ensure that adequate working space is provided around the equipment. This planning should take into account the location of other building components, such as walls, doors, windows, and mechanical equipment. It should also consider the potential for future additions or modifications to the building. In some cases, it may be necessary to relocate electrical equipment to a more suitable location in order to comply with the NEC requirements. This relocation should be performed by a qualified electrician and should be done in accordance with all applicable codes and regulations. In addition to ensuring adequate working space, it is also important to maintain a clear and unobstructed path to the electrical equipment. This path should be free of obstacles, such as boxes, furniture, and equipment. The path should also be well lit and should be wide enough to allow personnel to safely carry tools and equipment. Regular inspections should be conducted to ensure that the working space around electrical equipment is maintained in a safe and accessible condition. Any obstructions or hazards should be promptly removed or corrected. Employees should be trained to recognize and avoid electrical hazards and to report any unsafe conditions to their supervisor. Finally, it is important to remember that electrical safety is a shared responsibility. Everyone who works with or around electrical equipment has a duty to ensure that the equipment is properly installed, maintained, and operated. By following the NEC requirements and by taking appropriate safety precautions, we can help to prevent electrical accidents and injuries. Now let's consider some additional aspects of Article 110.26 and its practical application. The code specifies different working space requirements based on voltage levels and the presence of exposed live parts. For instance, the depth of the working space is determined by voltage to ground and the condition of the space opposite the equipment. Condition 1 refers to an exposed live part on one side and grounded parts on the other side, or grounded parts on both sides. Condition 2 indicates exposed live parts on one side and insulated surfaces on the other side. Condition 3 involves exposed live parts on both sides of the working space. The required depth increases with higher voltage levels and more hazardous conditions. The width of the working space must be at least 30 inches or the width of the equipment, whichever is greater. This width allows for adequate lateral movement and working room. The height of the working space must be at least 6 feet 6 inches or the height of the equipment, whichever is greater. This height ensures that personnel can stand upright and work comfortably without hitting their head on overhead obstructions. Illumination is another critical aspect of working space. Article 110.26 requires sufficient illumination to permit safe and effective work. Adequate lighting helps to identify potential hazards and ensures that personnel can see what they are doing. The specific illumination levels may vary depending on the task being performed and the environment in which the work is being done. Access and entrance to the working space are also important considerations. Article 110.26 requires that at least one entrance of sufficient area provide access to the working space. This entrance must be kept clear and unobstructed to allow for quick and easy access in case of an emergency. For large equipment, the code may require more than one entrance to the working space. Equipment likely to require examination, adjustment, servicing, or maintenance while energized must have convenient access and working space. Furthermore, Article 110.26 addresses dedicated equipment space. This section requires that the space above and below electrical equipment be kept clear of foreign systems, such as piping, ducts, and other non-electrical equipment. This dedicated space helps to prevent damage to the electrical equipment and ensures that it can be easily accessed for maintenance and repairs. Exceptions to the working space requirements may be permitted in certain circumstances. For example, the code may allow for reduced working space in existing installations where it is impractical to meet the full requirements. However, these exceptions are typically subject to specific conditions and limitations. It is important to consult with a qualified electrical inspector or engineer to determine whether an exception is applicable in a particular situation. In summary, Article 110.26 of the NEC is a comprehensive set of requirements for working space about electrical equipment. These requirements are designed to protect personnel from electrical hazards and to ensure that electrical equipment can be safely and effectively maintained. By understanding and complying with these requirements, we can help to create a safer working environment for electricians and other qualified personnel. Let's consider some specific scenarios where Article 110.26 might be applied in various settings. Firstly, in a commercial building, an electrical room houses a panel board and other electrical equipment. The room is used for storage, and boxes are stacked in front of the panel board, partially blocking access. This is a violation of Article 110.26 because it obstructs the required working space. Secondly, in an industrial plant, a large motor control center is located near a conveyor belt. The conveyor belt makes it difficult to access the motor control center for maintenance and repairs. This is a violation of Article 110.26 because it impedes access to the equipment. Thirdly, in a residential dwelling, an electrical panel is located in a closet. The closet is filled with clothing and other items, making it difficult to open the panel door and access the equipment. This is a violation of Article 110.26 because it obstructs access to the equipment. In each of these scenarios, the violation can be corrected by removing the obstructions and ensuring that adequate working space is provided around the electrical equipment. It is also important to ensure that the working space is properly illuminated and that there is a clear and unobstructed path to the equipment. Now let's discuss the enforcement of Article 110.26 and the role of electrical inspectors. Electrical inspectors are responsible for ensuring that electrical installations comply with the NEC and other applicable codes and regulations. They conduct inspections of new and existing electrical installations to identify any violations and to ensure that the equipment is properly installed and maintained. When an electrical inspector identifies a violation of Article 110.26, they will typically issue a notice of violation to the property owner or the electrical contractor. The notice will specify the violation and will require that it be corrected within a certain time frame. If the violation is not corrected within the specified time frame, the electrical inspector may take further action, such as issuing a stop work order or imposing fines. In some cases, the electrical inspector may also refer the violation to the local building authority or to the state licensing board. The penalties for violating the NEC can vary depending on the severity of the violation and the jurisdiction in which it occurs. In general, violations that pose a serious risk to safety will result in more severe penalties. It is important to cooperate with electrical inspectors and to promptly correct any violations that are identified. By working together, we can help to ensure that electrical installations are safe and compliant with all applicable codes and regulations. Now, let's consider some best practices for maintaining compliance with Article 110.26. Firstly, always plan ahead when designing and installing electrical equipment. Take into account the required working space and ensure that the equipment will be easily accessible for maintenance and repairs. Secondly, avoid placing obstructions in front of electrical equipment. Keep the working space clear of boxes, furniture, and other items. Thirdly, ensure that the working space is properly illuminated. Provide adequate lighting to allow personnel to safely and effectively work on the equipment. Fourthly, maintain a clear and unobstructed path to the electrical equipment. Keep the path free of obstacles and ensure that it is wide enough to allow personnel to safely carry tools and equipment. Fifthly, conduct regular inspections of the working space to identify any potential hazards or violations. Correct any problems promptly to prevent accidents and injuries. Sixthly, train employees to recognize and avoid electrical hazards and to report any unsafe conditions to their supervisor. Seventhly, stay up to date on the latest NEC requirements and other applicable codes and regulations. Attend continuing education courses and participate in professional organizations to stay informed. By following these best practices, we can help to ensure that electrical installations are safe, compliant, and well maintained. In conclusion, Article 110.26 of the NEC is a critical safety requirement that must be followed to protect personnel from electrical hazards. By understanding and complying with these requirements, we can help to create a safer working environment for electricians and other qualified personnel.